Morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, so we're going to start. My name is Tracy Unser, and I'm the program director for today. We received for these sessions combined about 280 RSVPs. So it's therefore delicious, so that's online and in person, a delicious privilege to welcome everyone to today's events, both those who are joining us online and all of you in the room. This is on behalf of the growing Women on Boards movement and organization. In South Africa, it is our Freedom Day weekend, long weekend, and it's particularly auspicious that our nation commemorates this year 3 decades, so 30 years of democratic citizenship since the signing of our iconic constitution in 1996. Freedom comprises transformative benefits and responsibilities, and today is a wonderful opportunity to reflect on this national milestone by being inspired in new ways to continue pursuing personal growth and transformative impact. So I always like to start when I am a program director. I want to start by acknowledging and thanking the people who quietly and competently behind the scenes ensure that we have a program, that we're able to attend, that we are audible and visible, comfortable, well-fed, and generally taken care of. So to the event and office administrators, the caterers, the cleaners, the audiovisual and facilities experts, our sincere gratitude, and can we give them a round of applause, please? Let me tell you about the social media and electronic platforms. In addition to the Zoom online attendance today, this is also being live streamed on YouTube. And stills and snippets will appear on other social media. On screen will shortly appear a QR code, which you can use in the room to make your own posts on social media. Of course, protection of personal information is important to the organizers of this event. So if you do not wish to be photographed or on the social media, feature on the social media, I'm told that it's useful if you sit at the table closest to the coffee station, because then you're not in the line of the visual. Let me give you an outline of today's program, and I would be most grateful for your assistance in our strict timekeeping today. We're strict so that we can get the best from each segment and give due to the extraordinary guests that we have today for their preparation and their input, and in consideration of our online attendees. On the program, we're going to start with a quick word from our very generous sponsors. None of this would be possible without them. Then we'll introduce our first segment, which will run for an hour. And then we'll have a short comfort break of about 10 minutes. And I must appeal to you to make it 10 minutes. So it's a race that you win to the ladies' room over there. And then the next segment will start shortly after that. And then we'll close the online, and for those in the room, we will have networking and lunch from about 12:30, 1 o'clock. All right. I'd like to now call on our sponsors, and I'm doing so in alphabetical order. What we don't achieve from the podium sponsors, I'm hoping that you will be around at lunchtime and we can network and chat to you. So first I'd like to call up from Common Purpose, Ms. Amalia Hendricks, who's the Leadership Program Director at Common Purpose. Give her a round of applause, please.
Morning, everybody. She caught me out. The pastries are divine. Morning, all. I'm Amalia Hendricks, and I am a consultant and also executive coach, and I work with senior leaders. I design and deliver programs as well for Common Purpose. And for those of you who don't know, Women on Boards has done a partnership with Common Purpose, and so we're bringing to you leadership development programs. One in particular that I'm very excited about and I share at every event is the one for mid-career leaders who are aspiring to have a Pan-African footprint. It's called Africa Venture, and it's for folks who are in mid-career looking to break boundaries. It's a very exciting program, so all I'm going to say is go on to www.commonpurpose.org and check out Africa Venture, and very soon we're going to have a senior leadership program as well, and those are for senior leaders. That's me. I'll keep it short. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Amalia. That sounds exciting. Next, from EmpowerWorks, we have Mr. Sechaba Motsiolwa. He is the Managing Executive at EmpowerWorks. Welcome to the stage. Round of applause until he gets here.
I'll use my 3 minutes in full. Good morning. Let me start by telling you the story of a miracle of birth. Just down the road here at Genesis Clinic, my daughter was born. I was there, present, assisting. But I never saw her born because I was assisting my wife from behind her. So when my daughter was young, I used to tell her about the miracle of birth. But before I could tell her how she was born, she always fell asleep and said to me, "Dad, you never get to that part of the story." Why? So when she got a little bit older, with the technology now, she prompted AI and said, "How is a child born?" And she got a full frontal visual, anatomic of how the child was born. I'm telling you this story because if we do not tell our miracles of birth from our perspectives, somebody else will tell it. And you may not like how they tell it. So now my child knows even something that I don't even know, and that story of the miracle of birth is destroyed. So it is important that when, as organizers, as sponsors, as supporters, we support initiatives that changes the perspective and angle of how a story is told in the boardrooms, that it is your perspective, not somebody telling you how that needs to happen. So at EmpowerWorks, we talk about empowering. So empowering spaces, empowering people as they come into spaces, so that when they show up, it's truly how they want to be seen. We run a couple of programs that empower youth, that empower women, that empower men. But what is coming up now that I'm really excited about on the 28th of May is the Empower Entrepreneurs Funding Summit, where we'll be able to bring both entrepreneurs as well as funders into one room. And from there, hopefully, there will be a nice matchmaking so that they can go and empower their spaces and their businesses. That's what we do at EmpowerWorks, and we hope to continue this partnership so that everybody else can be empowered to tell their story, their miracle of birth from their perspective. And for executives, we've got Empower Growth, where we update your software so that you are relevant in today's context. That's EmpowerWorks. Thank you.
Thank you, Sechaba. And then lastly, for this beautiful venue and all sorts of other gifts, in inverted commas, I'd like to welcome from PPS, Mr. Colin Wood. He is a millionaire platinum advisor and supervisor. I'd love to have that kind of title behind my name, millionaire platinum advisor. A round of applause for Colin until he gets here, please.
Ladies, you stopped short. I didn't get you. Well, you know what? As I look out over this audience this morning, I'm really, really excited to see how the women in our society have continued to take hold of their own futures, taken hold of their own careers and are making a difference in not in South Africa but in the world. And I look back to 1903 when Mrs. Parkhurst started the suffragette movement, and how you ladies are building on that even today. So, without further ado, on behalf of our CEO, Isak Smit, the PPS board and our executives and staff, I'd like to welcome you, to all of you wonderful, powerful women on boards, to this conference. And it's an honor for us to host and sponsor this event. As you heard, my name is Colin Wood. I'm a 16-year veteran of the financial advisory space. I have that jaw-breaking title behind my name, but I have the privilege of teaching youngsters how to do this job as well. That's where the supervisor comes in. But it's also my duty and my calling to meet and interact with new and existing members of PPS to ensure both wealth protection and wealth creation goals are achieved. It's also my privilege for me to say a few words on this elevator speech. I want to tell you that this elevator speech is designed for a 150-story building. So, in short, it is the PPS mission to assist graduate professionals, their colleagues, companies, and families to live the life they want to live in a world worth living in, regardless of race, age, or gender. Our only qualifying criteria is that our members be graduates of level 4 or level NQF 8, which is a 4-year degree or more, that's to become part of PPS. So PPS achieves our mandate to influence the lives of professionals through shared success. We work hard in our niche space, not only to provide professionals bespoke financial advice, not only to add value to our chosen market, both current and new and developing, but also to reward them through the power of mutuality. In short, we share our financial success with all of our active members and policy holders in the form of profit sharing at no extra cost. PPS has no outside shareholders. Our profit is shared with our policy holders. Just last week, we went to the market with our financial results for 2025. And if you had seen it or if you had read of it, we gave back to our policy holders, our members, in profit, an amazing 5.88 billion rand. Interesting. So that's a lot of money. We also created over 14,000 profit-sharing millionaires, people who have R1 million or more in their profit-sharing account. We also have, just in 2025, 15 members who in 1 year made R1 million in profit. In insurance, they say that you pay, and at the end of the day, you get nothing back. People say that it goes from your back pocket to some shareholder's bank account. In the PPS scenario, you are that shareholder. And you earn and gain wealth just by looking after yourself and doing what's prudent and diligent. Excuse me. So we want to help graduates live the life that they want to live in a world worth living in. By carrying the PPS message to your families and to those under your influence, ladies, we are keen to partner with you to create a better future for South Africa by protecting the financial future of those who are working tirelessly to make this country a success for all who live in it. I'm available to discuss how we can make a difference in your organization and with the lives of the individuals that you have influence over, making a difference for them and for you, and making South Africa prosperous. PPS has a sister company called Glue, just by the way, who has no criteria, but we bring mutuality to the entire South African nation through Glue. And in their first year of operation, they already showed a profit which they declared back to their members. And so if you're interested in knowing more about PPS, how we work, what the model is, and how we bring success to you, to your organization, to your family, to your colleagues, I am available. You can talk to me at any time. I'll be around. You can't miss me. Thank Thank you for listening and enjoy the conference.
Well, I think that gives you an idea of the prestige of this event, that we have 3 amazing sponsors with amazing offerings. Now, are we in for a treat? We are about to have the fireside chat, facilitated by our very own Delia Ndlovu, on the theme Back to the Future. And Delia will be having a chat with Lerato Sithole, who is the founder of Think and Grow Rich Africa. I want you to sit back and really savor this little bio. I say little, but you'll see what I mean. And look at the visuals. I don't know if we're putting up the visuals, Inti, of our next guest. So Lerato, in the summary, is described as a purpose architect, a transformation coach, a storyteller, a continental change maker. She began her working life as a cleaner and rose over 30 years through some of the world's most demanding institutions, including Accenture, EY, ERM, and Deloitte, serving as senior partner, managing director, C-suite executive, and board member across Africa and internationally. In 2024, she founded Think and Grow Rich Africa, holding the exclusive African license from the Napoleon Hill Foundation to author, teach, and apply Napoleon Hill's success principles across 54 nations. She is an ICF certified transformation and life coach and a certified global coach with the Napoleon Hill Institute, with more than 300 clients coached and 4 organizations born from her coaching room in 18 months. She is the founder of Uriti, a majority African-owned film production company co-founded with renowned Hollywood director Scott Servine, the founder of Leradis, a patented luxury perfume brand, and serves as a board member of Women on Boards, trustee of the RSM Education Trust, advisor on RSM's remuneration and nominations board committees, and non-executive board member of Rightcom, operating across 30 African countries. She is a #1 Amazon best-selling author. Her book gifted to every 2026 Oscar nominee and winner. A cast member of the Hollywood film Moms Rising, a Gold and Bronze Stevie Award winner, recipient of the Business Excellence Award at the House of Lords, and a champion of Resilient Leadership Award at the IAS Global Conferences in Paris 2026. In 2026, she also swept the South African chapter of the Australian-based Women Changing the World Awards, founded by Dr. Tererai Trent, winning first place in 3 categories: Changemaker of the Year, Rising Star of the Year, and Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year. Lerato is a mother of 5, a wife of 35 years, and a woman on a mission to empower 140 million Africans through purpose-led transformation. Please welcome Delia and Lerato.
Sure. Climb. Hello, everyone. How about that, huh? I think we are truly blessed today to have Lerato in our midst, this phenomenal powerhouse, my unsung hero, my darling sister. I've known Lerato personally and professionally over a long period of time. So Lerato, so many achievements. I thought I knew you. What?
You know them.
What? You have to tell us. tell us about these proud moments, what you were doing behind the scenes, as we thought we were heavy lifting, at the firm. So just tell us a little bit about these achievements. I mean, it is absolutely extraordinary. I'm so proud of you.
Sometimes when they read, I'm like, did I cheat somewhere? How did all of that happen? But I guess it happened. I want to stand up a little bit.
Yeah, stand up.
Because I want to tell while I'm looking at someone. Okay, this is my greatest achievement. I never got to the MBA part, but I have, with all those children, that's an MBA enough. So that's the greatest achievement, 5 children that God had blessed us with. And because of them, it took me 8 years to finish my junior degree because I was, writing exams with morning sicknesses, evening sicknesses, giving birth, and all of that. So in between, from child number 1 to child number 5, 8 years and a degree. So I thought anything above that, I think I qualify for a doctorate, master's, all of it.
Yeah.
So I was satisfied. So I think the other parts we all used to, we work for the EYs, the Accentures, the Deloittes and all of that. But I think my real thing started when I got into Mums Rising. So I've been reading Think and Grow Rich, and I'm sure it is a favorite book for most of you. So I've been reading it for years, but there's something that led me to read it. We'll get to that conversation. Think maybe, Delia, I'll be able to maybe tell that just to share. So that was the beginning of of my exit. That was the beginning of the end and the beginning of the good thing. So after I was following the Napoleon Hill Foundation. So during COVID, they made a call out to, mothers who have lived by the principles of Think and Grow Rich, and they say, write your story. There's a part that I didn't really pick up when they said that. They said, write a story, and then I wrote a story about being a mother that follows the principles of Think and Grow Rich. Then they responded, they're like, we like your story, but there's thousands of mothers that have written the story. And then only then did I go back and say, Konje, what was the full story about? What do they want? Then I realized that there's a movie. They're like, if you write a story and you get shortlisted, you get to a movie. I'm like, that and Deloitte and Delia is the chairperson and everyone. I'm in trouble, all the conflicts and all of that. But then I did do the movie without, at least you didn't tell me, but I did whisper to her. But I said, let me just go to Hollywood and just at least have the fun. I'll come and declare, and if it's not working, it's not working. I just need to go to the studio at Hollywood, and that's how I got that. And then that was the beginning of all these awards that we're talking about. As I say, the other ones, they are the ones that we have. So I'll just run around with what you see here, because Delia said I must talk about this. So this is us on the red carpet. You see me with my Ndebele attire in New York when we were doing premiere of Mums Rising, the movie that I then became part of. And that was there. We did the premiere last year in New York. And this is an award in the House of Lords in the Parliament in London, the UK Parliament, where Think and Grow Rich Africa was given the Business Excellence Award in 2025. So here it's me and all the actors and the mums and the actors, because some are just actors. This is me on set in Hollywood at the Universal Studios. And yeah, this is my best friend over there. This is us there. So if we go back, I wanted to show it will come through. So this is Stevie Awards, where we won the bronze and the gold. Stevie Awards is the Oscars of business, for those that know it. This is where our book was given to the Oscar nominees just now, recently, nominees and winners. The book that we wrote, and you've got an invite to be part of that. I'll talk about it. So this is us 35 years ago, looking very cute.
Yeah.
There's another picture over there, me wearing a costume. I don't know how to say it. We used to wear my costume. So this is me in my costume and my bag. Hey, yeah, getting married, green and red. I still have it. My costume, I hold it very dear. So that costume is very important, but the bag is very important because me, I was only 20 years when I was getting married. So over there, you can see my costume, ne? And my, yabon, 1991. So this bag, that bag there, I held onto it for dear life because after the wedding on a Sunday, me, I didn't know what happens then. Because now my mom has said goodbye, everybody. The wedding is done. We used to do weddings Saturday and Sunday. So this is the Sunday part. The wedding is finished. Now I'm sitting. This is the first time I set my foot at my husband's place. And I'm sitting there and I'm holding this bag and I'm like, what happens now? I held on to this bag and my costume, all intact, because no one is telling me what I must do. You know? 20 years, I don't know. So I'm holding on to this bag and I fell asleep on that chair in the room. Then when later on, someone touches me, I'm like, I hear the voice. I'm like, yo, it's the guy I got married to. If it was Zulu, I would have said, Dilo Puteng Shat Denai. I'm not used to him. Like we didn't have the dating thing as well. So I'm like, and I look at the ceiling, I'm like, I'm not at my mother's house. What's going to happen tonight? We'll
get into that, guys. Please, honestly. So my intention, as you've heard, is to live vicariously through her. I don't think I'll see Hollywood or any of the things she's talking about, House of Lords and stuff. So I think I said to her, boast today, my sister, because this stuff is not spoken about in the press or anything of that sort. So I wanted us to celebrate her. I'm sure you understand why this was important. And I said, stand, do whatever. You are our guest and you are home. This is family, it's a safe space. These are lovely people, so I spoke well about you, that you'll receive her well. So give her a very warm round of applause.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm particularly excited today because Lerato and I chose not to talk about leadership of titles, of roles. We wanted to transcend that. We wanted to talk about leadership beyond power and performance, leadership of self. We wanted to talk about, that quiet, resilient act where you guide yourself when adversity has struck, when you are facing entropy in your life and the center cannot hold. And everything that you thought was certain, was familiar, has been shattered. And you have to stand there and piece by piece put your life together because it's been shattered. And you do that minute by minute because it's hard. So for me and Lerato, leadership of self is about choice. It's when you choose to breathe when grief has taken your voice. It's when you choose to rise when your heart is broken. And when you choose to stand anyway, when your spirit is crushed. So the two of us have spoken extensively about this. We've walked difficult journeys together. We've been in those moments when life has tested you and you can't breathe, but you choose to breathe anyway. So we say, Lerato and I, that what sustains you in those moments is attributes of inclusive leadership. So by that we mean attributes of courage, attributes of commitment, collaboration, leaning on others, attributes of curiosity, investigating what's going on, I don't understand, attitudes and attributes of cultural intelligence, and being cognizant of bias, where you now start to realize I have to give other people grace because I need grace right now. And you start to approach life with, positive, non-judgmental regard. Because you're on the floor at that time. But Lerato says to me, yeah, all of that is important, all those attributes, but they have to be underpinned by going back to the future, as she puts it. Remembering where you come from, going back to your roots when you are on the floor and no one's there watching. And so, Lerato, let me ask you, you speak powerfully about going back to the future, remembering where you come from, remembering your roots. The Ghanaians call it Sankofa. So for yourself, this back to the future concept, what have you intentionally decided to take forward from your past, and what have you decided to deliberately leave behind?
Okay, with that introduction, my answer will, I'll try and also just cover what you have put forward. Everybody's got this, can I?
With pleasure.
Everyone has the piece of paper, so just fold it nicely like this. The black and white is back to back. I see on the, and you can see it's written back to the future, right? So I see on the table there are no pens, but if there were pens, you've got pens in your bags. You do, right? Yeah, okay, some do, some don't, which is fine. So we actually, the future is not, I say the future is not what lies ahead, but the future is what we go back to recover so that we can move ahead. And on here I've got, this is a booklet that I wrote and I give away after we do this retreat. There are the QR codes for you to join us in some of the short versions of Back to the Future and the longer versions. But why I was asking you for a page, so I say you go back to yourself before you go forward. So the future was laid before us, before we were. So when you are a 6-year-old, you actually are living in the future just as a 6-year-old. And then somebody comes and say, but you have a big nose. And suddenly you start to rewrite what that 6-year-old looks at. And someone says, but you laugh too loud. And then you go and you rewrite that laughter. It was set for you to go to the future and be this leader that you're supposed to, but because someone is starting to say certain things, you then delete it and you start to learn something else, and then you start your life and you live your 30 years, 40 years of your life based on the fact that somebody said you laughed too loud. So your biggest laugh that was giving you the biggest pleasure of yourself, you lost it as soon as somebody said you laughed too loud, and you are here today, you are living according to the expectation to not laugh too loud, and you are not yourself. So you need to go back to your big laughter and laugh too loud and start your future as that person that laughs that loud.
So that's brilliant. Let's bring it back to you. I specifically asked you, we want to learn from you.
Yes.
Now that
I've given
your wisdom, I want to know for yourself. So
what did I need to do?
Who said what to you? And how did that shape you?
Yes.
Who said something that resulted in this Lerato today?
That needed to go back to the future. Mm-hmm. So I actually established this because I lived it spoke to me, so I'm glad that you're bringing me back to talk about myself. So there's a who said and also what happened, right?
Indeed.
Yes, so I'm a child of a teenage parents. So, some people are born in the right way. I always say you are born in the lock, maybe at the center of the lock. I was born outside the lock. If you know what I mean. They say children out of wedlock. So I was outside that lock, and my mom had to then go far away and study and leave me with her sister, Emalilane. So it's like 400 kilometers from where we stayed. And then my father was a politician but was not present. So I then had to learn to hustle or survive. And I had to learn to live with what I didn't have a language at the time, but now I can say it was an intentional and non-intentional rejection. So my mom, it was not intentional for her to leave, and she was not necessarily rejecting me because at that age she could only be, the job she could take was to be a nurse so she can work and so she can give me a better life. But her absence left me with the mother wound without her doing anything because her motherhood was not there. Her sister was very good for me, but she was not my mother. So I didn't have the assurance to say, oh, pretty little girl, you look so beautiful. Instead, they kept on saying my eyes were too big. So I thought if I had the money that I have today, I would have changed these eyes to be smaller because they were the thing that I didn't like. So I needed to then be someone to live a life where my dad is just not caring. So you then become the girl who doesn't know whether you're going to call your father daddy, tata, papa, or whatever. He's there, and I had a good relationship with his mother, but he just didn't care. So that got me to put together a Lerato that was not meant to be surviving a rejection. Mm-hmm. And my mother, the only way I could remember her was through her perfume, that she used to like Leradis. So I've given you little perfumes because I then started the perfume brand called Leradis. Lerato distinction is everything because I could only distinctively remember my mother with the perfume that she wore, and I would put her cloth and so close to me so that's the only way she could be so close to me. Mm. And so when I got to a life where my eyes were open, I then said, I need to go back to the future and redo that. In 2016, at the highest peak of my career, you were there when I exceeded budgets and did all of that. Everyone was celebrating me at Deloitte except myself. Because I was void, I was empty, I was dark, I couldn't celebrate. And then at the benefit of that success, I was able to take a sabbatical for 3 months. And in that sabbatical, I wanted to detox body, spirit, and soul. And that's when I went back to my future. And that's actually the time when I started looking at Think and Grow Rich as a book, because it spoke to me next to my Bible, because I love the Word of God so much. So I went back to the future. I forgave my mother. I said my father at that time had been killed because he was a politician and all of that. So I sat him down on an empty chair and I spoke to him over 3 days. I was in a silent retreat. I spoke to him, I cried, I blamed him, I told him all the things that he did which I didn't like. But on the 3rd day, I then forgave him. I cried so much when I forgave him, it broke me and it opened me at the same time. I went back to the child that wanted to feel the love of my father and rebuilt myself. So I forgave my father sitting in an empty chair, and then I started thanking him for the person he was, because I realized there's a lot about me that looks like him. I'm actually writing a book saying I'm my father's daughter, where I then explain that rejection doesn't have to break you, but you need to deal with it. And you can go back and say, I'm rewriting my story. I then realized that my success was pushed so much by me wanting to get back and pay revenge to this father that had already passed, but who was successful, because I always said, I'm going to be more successful than him. We read about him in the newspaper, said they'll read about me and all. So that's how I went back to my future.
Now I understand. So when you came back from that retreat and tried to explain to me, I didn't get it. So you went back to the future.
Yes.
In that moment. I see.
Yes.
I get it. So it's good that you mentioned that you're deeply spiritual. So for me, observing your life, the way I know you, and you've given me permission to go here, to where we're going now. You see, like Job in the Bible, you have experienced profound loss. Mm. You have, walked through loss, but at the same time building, at the same time leading and serving. for the life of me, I can't wrap my mind, around how you are still here, how you. So I think it would be educational for all of us to understand, how did you lead yourself during those moments of profound loss? One was just last year. Tracy was there. We were beside ourselves, but you stood, you even spoke at your baby's funeral. So I'll let you go where you need to go, because it's not just one loss, it is losses.
So let me see if I can see the picture of my family. It's just passed, right? In me going back to the future, one thing that I learned was to have a conversation with myself. That's why I started this whole thing that says, hello me. For those that have a pen, you write a letter to yourself and you say, hello me, and you speak to yourself and you say, I love you, Lerato.
There's a picture.
Yeah, pause.
You can talk, it's fine. It will come back.
So you don't have to write now, but I will give you, I want you to have a chance before I sit down that you write that letter to yourself. So that's one thing that I do. I go back and I speak to myself and I write to myself. And I say, hello me, and I remember that I am existing, I'm present. Him. 1994, we were blessed with our eldest son, Ulindo Guhle, waiting for something great. A firstborn is when you become a mother, it's very transformational. That first cry, that first breath is so transformational. It was like, oh, I'm a mother. You look at this person that was inside your womb, 5 fingers, hair, beautiful, you've got, mothers, that joy, that thing. And unlike my poor mother who was out of the lock, mine, I did it in the lock, right? I was married, we were married for 3 years. We had our firstborn, Ulindo Guhle. And, if you go to the story of me with my little bag sitting there not knowing what's going to happen tonight, things happen that night. And things happen many nights after that. And then we had 5 of them. So we were quite busy, right? So that dread bag and that costume of mine means a lot to me, right? Because, it brought me this far. The other transformation that you have as a mother is when you see the last breath of your child. That's a different level of transformation. You get transformed, and you get to choose how that transformation deals with you. For some people, it takes them down to the end of their world. For some marriages, it takes the marriage to its end. For some relationships, it just breaks a lot. In 2004, I was a general manager in Durban, a pastor's wife. I needed to go to Durban because we needed the money from my pension fund so we can buy the site for the church so my husband can be this pastor that owns this church and all of that. So I ended up working at Umgeni Water, and there was this weekend, it was the long weekend, the Heritage Weekend. I was going to speak at Sentin Convention Center. I was so excited because I was going to share the stage with Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka. So I was so excited. She was the deputy president. And then I arranged with my husband, let the kids go with the 3 boys, go with our friends, and then I'll fly the following day because they were paying for my flight. and we'll meet and so on and so on. So as they drove, I'm at the airport in Durban, I'm meeting somebody, and then I get a phone call. They say, "Is your name Lerato?" I'm like, "Yes, it is." They say, "Oh, your children have just been involved in a car accident, and one of them didn't make it." That lady just said it just like that. And one of them didn't make it. I collapsed, I don't know for how long. That little Nokia, it was the leading phone at the time, went into pieces. When I woke up, it was into pieces. They're asking me, "What's the password?" I don't remember the password, but eventually I remember the password. And then I remember that somebody called and said something. When I remember the password, whoever was holding the phone phoned that last number. Then they got the picture of what had happened. I was transformed. Completely transformed. My 4-year-old baby was gone. At that time, I didn't even ask which one because they were all my children. There were three. The 3 boys were there. The twins were still about 1 year, 6 months. My whole world was transformed. And then, then they realized they shouldn't have told me. Then they tried to hide it and all sorts of things, but the baby was gone. And I remember when I got the last confirmation, I was still in Durban. Now we're trying to find flights. There are no flights. We need to drive back. A friend of mine, who was my boss as well, tried to drive me back. But when they confirmed and say the child indeed has passed on, you can imagine. I screamed, I cried, I rolled down, I did all sorts of things. But I do remember saying, God was in control when it happened. Before it happened, when it happened, and God is still in control even now that it has happened.
Wow.
Those are the words that I uttered. I was broken. We drove past, and there's a thing about intuition. When we drove past the place where this thing happened, I felt it. Before they told me where it exactly happened, but I felt it. But we drove, we went home. The 2 boys were there. They were confused. Ulindo was 10. He was 10. He was 8. The 2 were 1 year, 6 months, the twins. And I don't have Kenzie's picture here because ever since that time, I have not been able to look at his picture. Ever. So all the pictures of him have been hidden from me. The only time I looked at it was last year, and I'll tell you again. So you want me to? Okay. And so I'm a professional, I'm a general manager, I'm running a business and all of that. But then we did the burial and all of that. I don't remember a lot what happened then. For 2, 3, 4 years, I actually was absent from myself. I would go to work. But the thing is, when you go through this, and now that I'm here and I'm older and I'm able to look back and observe, as professionals, you get the first week, you bury, the second week, it's a leave. The third week, when you then go back to work, they hand you little tissues. You get given tissues the first week. The following week, it's business as usual. And you're expected to move on. And you know what? Because we have to work, then you have to move on. The lady that was, and I thank her even up today, her name is Pelma Porsche. She was my boss, but then she became a sister. What she did, she said to my husband and I, go away. We went to Cape Town. We just went just to try and look at the mountains and look at life, to just remind yourself that there's still life. Something is still going on. So the first 4 years where I don't know, I was there, but I wasn't there. I was there, but I wasn't there. But it's just amazing how profession moves on, how life moves on, how work moves on. And even in that, I continued. I still continued, got my promotions, did all sorts of things. So part of that 2016 sabbatical was to go and finish the healing that I had left hanging because I was rushing back to the next report, the next title, the next promotion, the next this and that. As professionals, that's what we do. But it ate me. I remember there's many times I drove past red robots and all of that. I'll only remember when I get home and I'll be like, play back. I'm like, but why were those cars standing? Why were they hooting? I'm only hearing them later after all of that has happened. And I realized I was just driving past and everybody stopped and I drove past. That was my life. It was in 2008. that for the first time, I remembered my son's, his name was Kenzile, gratitude. It was in 2008 that it was 2 days after his birthday that I remembered that it was his birthday 2 days ago, and I celebrated because my healing had come. Mm-hmm. Now that I don't remember his birthday with so much pain. I'm blessed because the passing of Ukensile brought my husband and I so close, and we were very, very close, and with the kids as well. So I had to learn, in 2016, I had to learn to go back to the future and accept and say, it was my portion. You know, and people would say, I was a pastor's wife at the time, people would say, but you always teach us Psalms 91. How does it work now? You know, people can be very helpful, right? Very, very helpful, very encouraging. But a few years after I read that psalm, it says, when death comes suddenly. It doesn't say if. Then I was like, oh, when? So my when had come. I'm hoping not to preach. My when had come, and, you know, so, but then this is how I walked, Delia. I said, God, you said everything works out for the good to all those that are called according to all those that love him and are called according to his purpose. So everything means everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the in-between. I said, Lord, I am going to live my whole life trying to find what is it that works out so good for me to lose my son in so much pain. When I wrote my story for Moms Rising, that's the story that attracted them, but that's not the story that shows on the movie, but that's the story that got me the peace. Everything worked out for good. I was able to be on Moms Rising. I was able to then start my journey of purpose, and today I am a profession working in my own business called Think and Grow Rich Africa to transform the thoughts and the minds of Africans. My pain led me to that. Everything worked out. So I'm talking to mothers who are professionals, mothers who don't know how to cope with such things, and mothers, I bring other mothers who have coped with difficult things that I can't cope. How do you do that and still show up in the boardroom and still be successful and still love life?
So, Lerato, yeah, you said you're not going to preach. But
what was I doing now?
This is profound. Yeah. So, in all of that, you have built all of that, and then again tragedy strikes.
Ulindo is 31 years old. Some of you know him. Well, Delia, you know he was your son too. Very vibrant. We all say that as mothers, but at least I can get witnesses. He did get married earlier on, and it didn't work out. He was getting married again last year. In February, got ordained to be a minister. You can see he loved his suits. Everything that's on my thing was designed for him by him, because he was the designer. He just called me July. It was July or June, I can't remember. July. He's like, Mommy, I'm not feeling well. He's getting married on the 7th of August. He's like, I'm not feeling well. And you know the gut feeling? You know, as a mother, you have that thing. So I'm like, let me come to your place. So we go to his place, my husband and I, and we sit with him. And I look at him, I'm like, you know what? Anyway, you're getting married in 3 weeks. Why don't you just come home? You're going to come home anyway. So why don't you come home? He goes home, and he's at our home as in our house. So he comes there, and it starts deteriorating in a big way. Dr. Tracy here is a friend of mine. She's a neurologist. I call her and I say, what's happening? It's like, no, don't worry. But when we start looking, I'm going to summarize, right? So then we walk the journey. So eventually we find out that he's got what we call a cavernoma in the brain. You know, when we went for so the first few weeks he's struggling there and there, but then on my birthday, I had a board meeting in Ghana. I come back. I was in Cote d'Ivoire. I come back on my birthday, and he's like, I greet him like, hi, you look okay today. because I was sitting on the couch. He's like, yeah, Mom, but I've been trying to stand up for the past 20 minutes. I can't stand up. I phoned Tracy. Tracy, my boy, say he can't stand up. Tracy's like, MRI. So we go MRI. I call her back. We get because she is able to see the results. She's like, yo, it's not looking good. Anyway, from that, the whole thing. On my birthday is the last day my son could walk. Because that day, Soli and I had to hold him and we had to walk him. And God, did we not cry and scream and all of that. All that led, hospital, everything didn't work out. He passed away on the 26th of August. 7th of August, the day he was supposed to get married, he's still in hospital. And on the 26th, he went through a 12-hour surgery and then he passed on. At the time, going through that, I was saying to myself, I even told you, I said, Dilly, I'm not afraid. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid. I didn't fear anything. There's nothing that said, what if? What if? It was his brother, this one, that said, Mama, what if it happens again? And I would shut him, right? So I'm not afraid. I'm so encouraged because I had told God, I had said, I am not bearing another child. And I said, God, you and I had a conversation. So that's what gave me the thing that I wasn't afraid. I was walking in faith. I was okay. We had the prayers. Everybody was praying. Thanks. Some of you did help me in prayer there. But it happened. It happened. But how am I standing?
That is.
How am I standing?
Because when we got to your house, you consoled us, right? And like in the story of Job, all we could do was sit there at her feet, all of us.
Yeah.
Tracy and I were reminiscing about how after we had laid Lindo to rest, Lerato made us laugh. She still found it in herself to do that. So we're not telling the story to be...
feel sorry for me.
Dramatic. Yeah. No, you're the last one we could feel sorry for. But it is more to say, you can still stand after all of that. And, we often talk about courage, and by that people would mean boldness, the ability to speak up in a boardroom, and that's called courage. So for us and Lerato, and hopefully now for all of us here, this is courage. She epitomizes courage. And she's been so kind enough to share her personal story, her private grief that we all do behind
the scenes.
Closed doors. She's able to tell us we cried with my husband. So as you can see, I'm speechless.
So
It's no longer an interview, a fireside chat. This is church.
Oh, it's church. So maybe Delia.
So I just wanted an opportunity for all of you to ask her questions. So maybe sit, Lerato. I know you want to go on, but I'm going to say sorry to Tracy. We will finish at past. I want people to connect with this. I hope you've been listening with your hearts. You haven't been listening for perfection. You've been listening to also just look at your own lives to say, how can I harness some of this and use it for myself? Just to give you a break, my sister, this is hard, the stuff you're doing. I know you like to mask with jokes. I know you have lived with you, but this is difficult work we're doing here. So I just wanted Tracy, who works very closely with Lerato. She is like a purple unicorn. She's a neurologist. If you know the medical field, that's the creme de la creme, superior intelligence, right? So Tracy, you will ask a question of Lerato because you know her so well, and help me. I'm finished, as you can see. But what happens to the brain when we go through this kind of stuff, this deep human pain? What neurologically, what happens? But please stand so everyone can see you, or maybe even come forward here and face them, because you are going to teach a little bit, right? Yeah. Okay, this is Tracy. Everybody give her a warm... Can we have a handheld mic for our beautiful Tracy, Dr. Tracy? Is it on? Yeah. Okay, Tracy?
Good.
Do you want to sit?
No,
Okay.
I'm okay standing.
All right.
I don't know if it's morning or afternoon, but hello everyone. You all look stunning. It's nice to stand here because I can see all of you. There I was just facing the front. But the brain is probably, if we were to talk in computer language, the brain is the hard drive of our body. So whatever thing that happens in our bodies happens because the brain deems it so. So the brain is also the holder of the mind. So because we can't touch our minds, they are housed in our brains. So what happens when we go through trauma? It might be any type of trauma. What happens in our brain is that we switch off the mechanisms that give us drive, that help us experience joy, the things that gives us that chutzpah to say, I am this powerful Dr. T and I can do this, I'm ready to take on the world. We switch from dopamine and serotonin, which are our chemicals that give us all this positivity that we have, and we switch to a chemical called cortisol. Cortisol is our stress response. So because you have lived, Ulerato was talking about a 6-year-old, I like to refer to my 6-year-old self as well when we are doing the work for Back to the Future. But in essence, what we learn in childhood is our stress responses. Some of us, when we are stressed, we fight. Some of us freeze. I'm the poster child for freezing, by the way. Some of us freeze, some of us run away, you know. So it is because in childhood we have already in our minds a scaffolding for dealing with stress, which we inherit from looking at our significant person. And that significant person for most children is mom. So we look at our significant person, how they deal with their own stress, what energy we draw from them when they are stressed. That's why they say when you are a new mother, please don't be stressed because the baby will not settle because they are picking up on your energy. So that energy is cortisol. And the brain goes into survival mode where you are not able to experience any positive emotion because the cortisol is too high. And what you do is you do the business of surviving. If you are in a crisis, your heart rate changes, your breathing changes. You no longer do anything that is rest and relax. But you are always like, I am immediately in a fire. So that is what happens when we get stressed. Yeah.
You were so good. You're going to sit here. I'm standing. So, audience, now we have 2 for the price of 1, right? I'm opening up for 30 minutes. Sorry, Tracy.
Yes.
I did say I'll be time conscious. I can't today. She has taken me to places that I don't know how to come back from. You'll stop me at past, okay? So you've got them, they're here. Please ask your questions. Feel free to ask a medical question, a personal question of Lerato. We're doing it differently today. Is that okay? All right, let's go. See the hands. Don't disappoint me. I've bought you 30 minutes. Okay, let me see who looks like they want to go. Thank you. Stand up.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hi, Lerato.
Hello.
Hi, Delia. Hi, Tracy. Sure. I thought when I came here, I'm sure all of us, because of who invited us, we didn't know we're coming to this conversation. This conversation is a surprise. And yeah, you guys didn't warn us, so you are going to get, I think, reactions from us that are the most natural relation.
Yes.
Yeah, that are raw, I think.
It's a safe space.
Yeah.
So feel free. You will be held by us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Lerato, I'm not going to be eloquent, but I hope you'll be able to hear me when I ask this question. You are a pastor's wife. So I'd assume you're a spiritual person. Maybe also a religious person, and the two are not necessarily the same. But from what you talk, from your talks, I'm assuming you're a spiritual person. So there's spiritual you, there's the soul you, who you've been working on for very long based on the stories you've been telling us. Then there's religion, right? And especially for you, you are in a structured religion environment. And then you talk Napoleon Hill, which is another story, which often seems like it's contradictory to how we were brought up religiously. But I always go back to spiritual.
Right.
Because for me, religion is a
Doctrine.
and yeah, it's an environment, but spiritualism is personal.
Sure.
So I always lean more on that than religion. But we grew up with religion. We're guided by religion. So there's religion, there's spirituality, and then there's the Napoleon Hill language, the energy, who we are, intrinsically, the soul, all of that. And then you've got what, I mean, it says think and grow rich. If you've never read it, you think about it's about riches, money only. But it's not about that. But what you didn't know before you went to read it, that it was not about riches. So what attracted you was think and grow rich. So which means that you are interested in the rich. But you get there and you find something else, right? And then you go through life. Life throws at you these things, this hecticness that it throws at you. And you got to be a professional. And you rise up as a professional. And you are a wife of 35 years old. Clearly, the fact that you're still a wife today means that you did something right. Jeez, how do you bring it all together, put it all together, and still be a joyous human being? Somebody who adds value to other people, at work, at church. So people are looking up to you. You got kids, they're looking up to you. You've got a husband looking for a lot from you. You all of it. And you're still here. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much for that question. Beautiful question. Any other questions so we can give the Lerato a chance to just metabolize this question. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks, Lerato. Very intimate conversation. Thank you for sharing. So, I believe everybody in this room has gone down a path that is hard, that is dark, that changes us. Neural pathways change. And in order to survive, we have to move on. But what I'm interested in is, what did you have to leave behind to become the woman that you are? Because I know parts of what you had to get to be who you are, but what did you have to leave behind? Why did you leave it, and how did it help? Thanks.
Maybe.
Check in with you. Is that enough?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. So I had to leave behind bitterness, resentment, and a sense of not belonging. Because if you are a girl child and your father is not, you actually feel like you don't belong. So a lot of people don't believe that. For the longest time, I was very shy and very quiet. And when I was then 16, I went into a mirror, I spoke to myself and I said, this stops here, right here. You are no longer going to be shy. But what brought that was the fact that I didn't have that sense of identity. I have a father here who's not even looking my direction. My mom has to do what she needs to do. She's not there. So I had to leave all of that. So when I took that sabbatical, and I put my hand on Think and Grow Rich, I was able to link what Think and Grow Rich says with what the Bible says. From my side, I found a lot. That's why I hold it, because it gave me so much of God in practice, faith in practice. So I had to leave that. I also had to be, like when I took that sabbatical, there was a lot of celebration around me. Actually, I was the highest performer. Jean is also there. She remembers that year. So everyone was celebrating, but I had to be honest with myself and say, but I am empty, and go back and take the titles away and say, but who am I? So the Hello Me thing is a big thing. I write a lot of letters to myself, and I'm very honest. If I make a wrong decision, and I've made a lot, I write that, hey, Lerato, this was a flop. You flopped, girl, and you need to sort yourself out. I do forgive myself a lot because I need to move forward. So I had to leave behind anything that is not Lerato. And I want you guys to know that me being like this and holding, there's not even a piece that I check in with myself, because I speak to myself a lot and say, Lerato, are you pretending? Are you denying? What are you doing? I check in with myself and I realize that, no, I am present.
That's powerful. That is self-awareness. Very, very powerful. Grounded in spirituality, as you had. Tracy, do you want to add to that? Nothing. Okay. Let's get another round of questions. Any question? Lerato is satisfied. Are you satisfied, Lerato, that you answered that one?
So she said quite a lot that I love, but I guess one part that I answered was Think and Grow Rich. And the Bible, for me, it makes sense. Okay, so there's a chapter, there's a principle in the book Think and Grow Rich called faith. That's a very direct one. But when you talk subconscious mind, when you talk the sixth sense, if your eye be single, that's the sixth sense. It's your pineal gland. If your eye be single, therefore your whole body is full of light. That's in the Bible. Going an extra mile, making a decision and all of that, and being able to, it says, Napoleon Hill says, whatever your mind can conceive and believe, your mind can achieve. And the Bible does say that. Whatever you ask in my name, you shall receive. And it talks about thinking. So it's thinking of the Think and Grow Rich that attracted me. As a man thinketh, so is he. Right? So that's how I pulled it together. For me, there's a religion that gives a bit of foundation of thou shalt not. Then there's a spirituality where the spirit of the letter speaks more. So one of the things that I realized was that I am called for a purpose. So what I drive in Think and Grow is the whole thing around purpose. So what held me was the fact that I then realized, in fact, maybe well, I don't know how it will go, but what's holding me in this version is the fact that as an older version of myself, having left the things that I needed to leave, I stopped pretending. Delia knows sometimes my words are not chosen right because I just hey, tomorrow might be too late, let's sort this thing out and say it as it's said. So what held me was the fact that during my time of the journey after reading Think and Grow Rich and getting into Move and starting to say, but corporate is not really my purpose. So I'm off corporate, I'm doing Think and Grow Rich full time. I then found my purpose. So what's holding me now is the fact that my purpose is about making great people. So I am being pushed. When I think about Ulindo, I'm like, but Ulindo helped me build and start this thing. Why am I alive? There was a night that I woke, I couldn't sleep, and I was crying. Because when I feel like I'm crying, I cry, guys. When I'm like, it's painful, I go through the pain. What I don't give into is to sit in the graveyard where my son is, because he's gone and he loved the Lord and he's fine where he's at. I am here, I'm giving the extra time. What I'm asking myself now is to say, God, how does this become a bigger part of my purpose? I don't have the answer yet. It only happened in August. But I'm working now. After Kenzie, I said, show me everything that is good, whatever, everything works out for good. Now I'm saying, how does this become a story of purpose? One thing that I have found a little answer, Delia, is to say the motherhood, what it calls us for. You don't have to have lost a child, but I want mothers to show in the boardroom as mothers. I know you show as women leaders, show up as mother leaders. There's a difference there.
And wives. So, thank you. That was. So you went deep there, spoke about glands that I don't understand. Can you explain what was she talking about?
The pineal gland.
Yeah.
So it is referred to by everyone who is religious and non-medical, like myself, as the third eye. For us in neurology, it is a small organ. If you can imagine, this part is called the glabella, guys, for those of you who would like to use that word somewhere. The glabella is the midpoint between your two eyes. If you were to think of yourself going through the bone into the brain, it will lead you to a small crystal structure called the pineal gland. The pineal gland is what connects your brain, your mind, to the subconscious and to the beyond. So it is the structure that allows you to connect to a different wavelength of function. So once you function there, I like the word gamma. Once you function there, you are functioning at gamma. That is your most true self, the one that God created you to be. That is your most true self. That is your most creative self. And that is the part of you that functions without limitations.
Wow. Guys, I'm blown away. I'm blown away. Yeah, I can't explain the medical one, but I also love that the theme that's emerging is about from pain to purpose.
Yes.
Hopefully, like me, as a layperson, you got that one. The pineal gland one, I'm still going to talk to her to explain some more. My brain's not keeping up. Please give our beautiful lady here a mic, and then we will start with you, and then give her a mic, please. Do we only have one? And then there's another question over here. So I've got my eye on you. How are we doing for time? You're giving me 10 more minutes. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the session. We really appreciate it because we always live here so full and given tools to lead our lives better. So thank you for that to your team, Sis Delia. Good morning to our speakers. I just wanted to circle back to the question you asked. And I think I wanted to take the opportunity because Dr. Tracy is on the platform. I wanted to circle back to how do you lead yourself during moments of profound loss? And I think, Sis Lerato, you've already spoken about writing letters to yourself, which I think a lot of us don't do. We write about everything else other than writing to ourselves. So that's a huge one that I've just put into my toolbox. Thank you for that. But I wanted you to expand more on really, after all of these profound losses, other than writing to yourself and going back to the future, how did you manage to come out of it and come out of it so strongly? So that's the first part of my question. And to Dr. Tracy, I wanted to also build on that toolbox to say, from a neurological aspect, medically, what are those tools? Because I think what we know now about life is that for us to come out full circle, we will experience loss, pain, so that we can then come out as these individuals that are strong to be able to build and stretch ourselves further. So medically and neurologically, how do we, because we will go down in the deep end, how do we, one or two things that we can pull ourselves out of that quicker than staying in that hole? And then my last question is...
You're cheating.
Sorry.
I think you're cheating.
And
That's
it's
a
so
third one.
important, Cecilia.
But because I'm feeling generous today, you go.
It's so important.
Yeah.
On your experience as a corporate warrior, I've got a love-hate relationship with corporate based on what you said. When trauma happens to you, you're expected to move quicker. If you had an opportunity and you had an open book to write the things that corporate can do better to support employees in these instances of trauma, what would that be? Thank you.
Okay. So she asked 3 questions. While you're thinking about it, to be fair, let me ask my lady over there in the yellow shirt to ask her question, and then I'm going to ask you, and then we will take questions from the online people. Let's not forget about them.
Ooh.
And my lady over here. Yeah, and online. Okay.
Lerato, thank you for being so vulnerable today and opening us up to us today. It takes a lot to talk about such deep pain. And Delia, you as well. Dr. Tracy, the question is for you. I loved the way you spoke about the pineal gland. And for me, tapping into the other side of the pineal gland, with the more spiritual side of it, for me is, I'd love to know more about that and how you connect to that so that you live your true purpose. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Me too. I also wanted to know that. I just didn't know how to ask the question. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, good morning, everybody. What an honor to be here. I am feeling extremely emotional, but I just want to say you're such an incredible facilitator. I just told my sister now that you're so graceful and so, I don't know, I'm enjoying what you're doing. But my question...
I love you too.
My question is to both of you. It's around health and nutrition. At 49 years old, I have been blown away by the importance of health and nutrition in our journeys. To be strong, to have the energy and the mental agility and health to be able to achieve the things that we need to achieve. What role has that played in your journey? Because there's no way that you can be standing like this without looking after the body itself as well.
Okay, there is the last one from here, and then after they've answered, we'll end with the online.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Lerato, thank you. I just want to know, what is that one moment in your journey that shifted everything? And why is that moment matters the most?
Thank you.
I'll start to answering this last one.
And go backwards.
So that one moment that shifted everything was when I knew what my purpose was. When I could spell it down, write it down, it shifted me. I went to Delia. She was our chair. I said, Delia, this is my last partner conference. I am leaving. And of course, there were other things that I could make excuses about. But the thing was my purpose. It was enough for me to say, step out and make sure that you deliver it to the African continent. And so purpose is what drove me. And it is purpose, to answer that other question, it is purpose. And I just say purpose very loudly. Because when you go onto both of these QR codes, you can join our free session and you can join our paid session, which we're going to have in May. Dr. Tracy and I have partnered to run this so that all these other questions that you have that are neurological, you need to connect with us. First on the free session, we give you a taste, and then on the 2-day retreat, and then there are other sessions that I've partnered. But she was my client first. So what happened between the two of us, I was coaching her to find her purpose. So she took the neurology, became a purpose, and we built this thing together. Wow. So when she found her purpose was for us to use this and say, how do you tap into the neurological self to get the purpose and to be able to fight anxiety, depression, and I'm speaking fast because I'm looking at the time, anxiety, depression, and all of that. So a lot of the question we will answer, even after this online, and we'll give you the questions. But also join us for, if you go to the QR codes, you'll be able to join us for our sessions. You'll have these questions answered in the short one and in the longer ones and in life that goes on, because I realize that what makes me being able to hold up is I understand how my body works neurologically. So I had the whole thing. When I started speaking to Tracy, Tracy brought in the medical of what I am talking about. So I know that when I think about Tulindo and think of him as him going down the grave and dying, I know my subconscious is going to dig deep in that, and it will give me the biggest grief and pain. So I choose what to think about Ulindo Nokenzi. I choose, because my Bible says, think about these things that are praiseworthy, good report. So I choose what to think, because I have that choice. The think and grow and be rich in my relationship and in my life. So I choose my thought because I understand, and I understand the times when, so before I sleep, the time before you sleep, we call it state akin to sleep. So the time while you are dozing and trying to sleep, that's when your subconscious is taking the notes that is going to work with while you are asleep, and that is going to be your first feeling when you wake up. So when I sleep, I say, Lindo, I love you. Thank you for having been such a good gift to me. Thank you for having impacted this and that and that. I have all the things that he has done. And thank you, God, for giving me Ulindo for 31 years, while as another parent doesn't have 31 minutes with their child. When I wake up, I'm in good spirits about Ulindo.
Wow. Thank you, Lerato. That's so rich. I know that you are watching me in terms of all questions. She's the auditor in the room. But,
and we will answer them offline as well.
So that, because I'm scared of her, you need to answer her question. I think she asked you a question, and there was that beautiful lady over there asked you about the pineal gland as well.
So, I can't remember now the question.
She'll repeat it. Give her the mic, please. Whoever has a mic, give it to our beautiful lady over there too.
The role of health and nutrition in this journey.
Yes, and then there was another one related to the pineal gland, right?
Thank you. So the pineal gland, how do you connect to it to know what your purpose is?
Okay. That one.
Right.
So let's start first with, we cannot talk about the pineal gland without talking about the rest of our brains. There are two attributes of our brains that are very, very important for us to acknowledge and to take heed of and be aware of them. We can only change something if we are aware of it. Number one is metacognition. Metacognition is your ability to think about what you think about. Because the majority of our downfall is that we become our own worst critics. Our voices becomes the loudest negativity in our mind, such that even if you meet a sister who believes in you and tells you all the positive, your own voice is still going to be stronger than hers. So, number one, metacognition. Number two, neuroplasticity, the ability of our brains to change what has already been imprinted into new neural pathways that are going to work with our newfound positivity. Those are the two aspects that I would like to teach you about today about the pineal gland. And once you are there, you need to be metacognitive, you need to be neuroplastic, and then you go into meditation. Meditation is what breaks down the crystals that are within your pineal gland, and that allows the pathways to the other side to open more freely. In that way, you are going to receive from the beyond, and you are also going to be able to give into the beyond the things that you are meditating upon. So when the Bible says, upon this you shall meditate, please let us not meditate about pain. Let us not meditate about because if you consistently think about that, you have changed that thought from being a visitor that had to leave to being a resident. And whether you like it or not, that thought is going to give birth to something of its own. There is no seed. You cannot plant a spinach and get an apple. So that seed is going to give after itself. So meaning you are going to give birth to the experiences of that negativity. I hope that answers your question.
I feel so invigorated. If I could ululate, I would do it. But we are out of time. Let's take one of those questions. We've got 2 online. Let's do one. Thanks. So we can close.
Okay, that is fine because the other one was more of a comment. But there's a question here from Malebu. Given all of that trauma, how did losing her children impact how Aus Lerato moves in the boardroom? And I love this because this is part of our role as women in professional spaces, to bring all of ourselves, tears and all.
Yeah. So Lerato, for me, I want to add to that one to say, inner commitment, right? We talk about inner commitment in the sense of, in the boardroom, committed to strategy execution. As a board, we committed to stewardship, oversight and accountability. We think at that level. But like this person who's asking this question, I'm also wondering, so all of the stuff that you've spoken about, how do I move beyond that? And actually use it as a secret weapon.
Yeah. And that is why earlier on I was saying, let's go in the boardroom as mothers who have experienced all sorts of things. So how it has worked for me is it had made me a different leader as I listen to hear and understand. There's a lot of things that I fought for because of these things. For example, we go to a funeral, they're like, but why are they taking 2 weeks to bury? So you kind of like have to take people in the boardroom to a funeral, Black Funeral 101, because the aunt is going to come from, so I go in, it helps with the empathy, it helps with you always give a benefit of a doubt and understand that that person that we are maybe upraising in the boardroom has not been performing well because we don't know what has been going on in their lives, and because at work we don't ask. And those that are going through things, they also don't say much because they're afraid to be stigmatized, they're afraid to be labeled by whatever it is. So it's almost like, but do we know what they are going through? So you end up fighting, and I remember when I was in the board in Deloitte, there were people like, but they can't be promoted because they've been going through this and that. There's that understanding, but there's not that because you have not been in it. You get over it, move on. You're like, no, but we can't move on. So, short answer, but it could be long, but you definitely are different. You lead with this could be my child, this could be my loss, this could be that. And again, the loss doesn't have to be in the form of losing a child, but some people lose certain things. And you get to be a listening leader and a listening board member. Your inner commitment is so much to yourself that it overflows to be committed to other people's causes that don't even know that you are committed to. And you stand for a cause. So in your purpose, you would know what it is that is the cause that you stand for when you are in that boardroom.
Yeah. Wow. So, my darling sister, thank you.
Thank you. I want to say, Delia, thank you. This is part of my healing as well. So the more I'm able to share and be like this, I didn't know how, when we spoke, I said, even if I cry, it's okay. But it didn't happen. I didn't cry because crying didn't come. I can't say it in the right English. But this is... This is for me healing. It's for me healing for you guys to receive and for those that are online to receive. So I'm better healed now for tomorrow than I was yesterday before I met all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Lerato, thank you for being our teacher, right? Tracy, to you as well. Thank you for being our guru today. I'm never going to forget the pineal gland.
A lovely hijacks.
Thank you so much.
As we go down, Sisti, I want to just say, Dr. Tracy, like I said, you can join us here, and other things you can go in, you connect with us, we'll tell you. But I want to say, I've done a 6-episode podcast with Dr. Tracy. It's on my channel called In Conversation with Greatness. So for you to see this neurologist, I want you to understand who she is. You'll be blown away. Please go listen to it. In Conversation with Greatness, Dr. Tracy Mako. You will hear her story. And when you come to our sessions, you'll get to see what built this greatness, because we ask.
Remember Sankofa. Thank you. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow. So I don't know about you, but I can't think of a better way to have spent part of the Freedom Day long weekend. We are similarly nourished. Thank you for your generosity, vulnerability. We'll do a wrap-up at the end. I mean, there was so much to capture, but that was just awesome. In the spirit of generosity, our next speaker has allowed us to take a 5-minute break, just because we all understand that having sat for a little while, we do need a break. I'm going to ask you to do it, please, quickly, discreetly, quietly. If you need to take a snack and a drink, please do so. We're going to start in exactly 5 minutes' time, and I will introduce our next speaker. Thank you. So, ladies, after the powerful foundation that was set this morning for a discussion of empowerment, transformation, vulnerability, all of those wonderful qualities, it is a great privilege to introduce our next guest, who's going to talk to us about hard things, hard stakes, what it takes to grow. Let us also sit back and savor the bio of someone who is absolutely incredible. Shelley Walters is CEO and founder of the Sales Council, a South African sales consultancy that helps leaders grow revenue through disciplined sales leadership and commercial strategy. Since founding the business in 2016, Shelley has delivered sustained double-digit year-on-year growth over nearly a decade, built organically, without internal funding or family capital, and in a market crowded with larger, better resourced competitors. Shelley's leadership story is as real as it is relevant. She left school early with no safety net, built her career from the ground up, navigated complex business dynamics, including buying out adversarial shareholders, and kept building through significant personal hardship, including an abusive relationship in her early entrepreneurial years and cervical cancer treatment in 2023. Professionally, Shelley is one of Africa's most sought-after keynote speakers. She is an inductee of the Professional Speakers Association of South Africa's Educator Hall of Fame, and in 2019, she became the first recipient of the PwC Gender Mainstreaming Award for inclusivity in the entrepreneur category. Shelley is also deeply faith-rooted and speaks with grounded hope, without gloss, and without turning adversity into identity. Shelley speaks with clarity, warmth, and edge about what it truly takes to grow when the stakes are high. Shelley, we are ready to receive. A round of applause.
What a tremendous introduction and a tremendous welcome. And I know that I stand in the room with greatness. And I'm so glad that I came early today and was able to sit at the back of the room and to take in and also to be edified by what I learned today. And I'm hoping that actually, so I was sitting at the back, and as I was listening, I was making a few notes and a few changes, as you often do, right up until the last minute. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to also help to connect some dots and to bring even more color and depth to the picture that has been painted for you this morning. So just very quickly, a little bit about my background without belaboring this. And so there's a term that I use when I say that, I understand we have trauma, but I don't like it when people use trauma as currency. In other words, if somebody's using trauma against you because they don't want you to do something or hold them to account, or they want you to buy something, that would never happen, right? And so it's difficult, I think, when we talk about trauma, to do it in a way as graciously as it was done this morning, to lay it bare, to be vulnerable, and I think it's challenging because in rooms like this, it's so easy for us when we open up that conversation for people to perceive it otherwise, as if it is a tool. So just on that note, I come from Gqeberha, Nelson Mandela Bay, from a beautiful, beautiful part of our country, and I can only speak a little bit of Xhosa, but I do know Dagubeta Wena, which I think tells you a lot about me. And the work that I'm doing here with you today, or the message I have for you today, is very different from all the other work that I do, because we really are an organization that focuses predominantly, I would say 95% of what we do is around sales, working with large organizations, enterprise clients, corporate clients, etc. But what I'm here to talk to you about today is a little bit of my journey and what I've learned. And anytime we do that, it feels a bit risky, right? Brené Brown spoke about, Brené Brown, she does the studies on vulnerability. She said they did over 15,000 studies about what it takes to be a hero. And what they found is that there's not a single case of somebody being a hero without them being vulnerable. Think about it. If you are a very strong swimmer and you jump into the pool to save the child, Well, thanks. But if you can't swim and you jump into the pool to save the child, that's really heroism, isn't it? If you're not a firefighter and you run into a burning building, there's a risk to that. Obviously, there's a risk to firefighters as well, but we view it differently. So I'm going to try today to take just the appropriate amount of risk and share just the right amount of vulnerability, and where it's relevant to share part of the past history and story. And I hadn't planned on sharing this, but I think it's a theme that came through in the discussion this morning. So my story was, so imagine this. I'm 33 years old, not now, I know. But at the story, 33 years old, and I make contact with my godmother, who I hadn't seen since I was 5. And I'm going to Cape Town on business, and I'm driving from Gqeberha all the way along the beautiful garden route. And she says to me, stop and stay over for a night. I haven't seen you since you were a little child. So I said, well, that's wonderful. So I go and I stay over for the evening, and she looks at me and she goes, oh, you look just like your father. And I think, well, I really don't look anything like Benjamin at all. He's got Grecian looks, olive skin, dark hair. I don't look like that at all. Now, my grandfather raised me. My grandfather's name was Walter, and so my grandfather raised me, and she said to me, "No, man, your father." So I thought she meant like maybe metaphorically, like because he raised me. But he looked like Walter Matthau from Grumpy Old Men. No woman wants to be told she looks like that, no matter how much you love them, right? And then she said to me, "Did your mother never tell you?" Now, remember that at this point, I'm a radio presenter. Just before I left the house on that drive, I couldn't find my ID book. And I prayed to go and find my ID book. And I remember distinctly putting my hand on my front door and praying. I've got dogs. And praying over my home and hitting the road. And I know that there was such divine presence with me on that whole journey. I was shocked. So she said to me, your mother never told you? So I'm like, well, clearly not. My mother had a one-night stand at a bike rally, the Buffalo Rally, 1978. I don't know who remembers the Buffalo Rally. And my father was a radio and television presenter. Isn't that crazy? And I didn't go looking for him then. I didn't. It took me a long time. In 2017, I went looking for him, and I found him. And we did a DNA test, and he's my father. Yeah, I know, it's incredible, right? The first thing, when we spoke to each other, I said to him, look, we need to do a DNA test. And he said, well, we can do one. He said, but I don't need a DNA test to tell me that you're my daughter. He said, it is as clear as day. And I said to him, but how's your family going to react? You've got 2 other daughters, you have a wife, how are they going to react? And he said, there's only one way for us to react, and that is to receive you as family. Isn't that sweet? Yeah, that was the last time he ever said that. The next email I got was to say that each party is liable for their own DNA tests. No, I'm dead serious. At the age of 38, so my mother told me I was the worst thing that had ever happened to her and I destroyed her life. My grandfather stepped in. At the age of 38, I thought this whole story is going to change. The word says that God will turn the hearts of fathers towards their daughters in this little time, right? But I had my hopes up, and in that time, I was in an abusive relationship, and I was going through the shareholder threshing floor, and it was all happening at once, and I thought, this is the turning point of my life. How faithful is the Lord? And then it turned out it was turning straight into a wall. It was deeply painful. I cannot even begin to find the words to articulate to deal with that kind of rejection twice in your life. But the second time as an adult, with access to alcohol, ex-boyfriends, I don't know what's happening to this recording. So, and in that time, I just realized again how important it is that we maintain that sense of purpose, that sense of self, that we keep our eyes on the horizon. So let me ask you very quickly, why do you go to work? Sorry?
Just afford the things that I enjoy doing.
Okay, so this young lady, what is her name?
Balisa.
Balisa. She says to afford the things that pour into me. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Money. Money, money, money. I shouldn't sing. Anyway, especially when there are cameras in the room. So we say that we go to work for money. And that's true. But I want you to dial it. Let's take a few steps back. Because if you go a few steps back and you think about it, animals in creation, if a bird needs seed, it goes and finds seeds or worms or nuts or whatever it wants, right? If a grazing animal wants grazing, it goes and finds grazing. If a predator wants prey, it'll go and find whatever its prey is. But human beings, we have to raise our children, which are dependent on us for much longer than any other creature, then get them through some kind of primary education, a secondary education, hopefully a tertiary education, whether that's a trade, whether that's a formal, whatever that is, a degree. And then we need to learn how to work with people, and there's no course for that. And only then can we actually start to participate by getting up every day off of our blessed assurance and going out into the world and saying, I have this. Do you need this? And I need to do it in a way that's superior to my competitors. And I need to do it despite everything that's going on inside my own mind, body, world, family, whatever the case might be. And what struck me about this is that the entire economy, the world, everything you see has been a result of or is reliant on somebody taking a risk every day. Every day. And if we're not willing to take that risk to make our contribution to the world, we miss out not only on the rewards, but also on the sense of significance and contribution that comes from doing the thing that your Creator designed you to do. So it was mentioned that I was ill. I am cancer-free, very deeply grateful to our medical fraternity. We're very privileged in South Africa. Well, those of us who are privileged in the sense that we can choose our medical care, which is not available to many countries that one would think are actually privileged. So that's a little bit of a connecting with what was discussed this morning and a segue into this. So today's title is Hard Things and High Stakes. When you're running a business, when you're a director, when you're sitting on a board, everything is high stakes. Isn't that true? Okay? But what I'm going to do today, or attempt to do today, in as short a space as possible, without losing the depth of it, I want to show you first what are the challenges, or what is it that you're dealing with that you might not even realize that you're dealing with, that's getting in the way of you actually making better decisions, growing your business, being able to operate at that higher level. What potentially is getting in your way? And I'm so excited that we spoke about the brain, because it turns out it's our brains that are getting in the way. Well, that's a part of it. So this is an article that comes, it's called The Scarcest Resource, and it comes from Harvard Business School. And according to this study, in 1970, the average business executive was receiving 1,000 pieces of external communication per year. And I know it's a stereotype, but it's a stereotype because it's largely true. In 1970, the average executive had less domestic responsibility and more domestic support. In 2010, which is now 16 years ago, it was 30,000 pieces of external communication per year. That's before Claude and Chat and Manus and whatever, all of these, before LinkedIn was what it is today. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, that's probably perfectly healthy. Because our brains have not changed. You still have the same brain that you've had for decades. And actually, the opposite is true. As we get on in years, we don't actually have the exact same brains, but it's okay, we've got personality and experience. So this is what's happening in our world, okay? We are trying to keep up with everything. And a lot of it means that we are being driven by fear. What would you rather be driven by, fear or faith? Okay, I was listening to a teaching this week by a guy called Jamie Winship, and he teaches on identity, and he said something. He said, negative identity statements are so easy to agree with. Like, this voice in your head that goes, what did you think you were doing when you chose this role? And you're like, yeah, I know. But if a voice came into your head and was like, you are playing so small, there's so much more for you, you'd be like, what? Are you like, did somebody put something, isn't that odd? Right? So I love that, talking about celebrating yourself and thanking yourself and being grateful for who you are today is the result of the previous versions of yourself who showed up for you today. Yes? Okay, so the challenge when we go back to this is not just, oh, I'm behind on my work. Oh, I can't keep up. Every person in this room is a person with significant influence, yes? You have responsibilities, yes? Do your decisions matter? Yes. Okay, we agree. Yeah. Right. But would you also say that we've been going on largely with the situation as it is without addressing it? Okay, this is the consequence. So it means that you can't organize yourself, you can't prioritize your work, and you can't get going. It means that you can't focus, you can't sustain your focus, and you can't shift your attention between tasks. It means that you can't regulate your alertness. Okay? You can't sustain your effort, and it negatively impacts your processing speed. Would you say that's important if you're running a business? Think about, this is terrifying. Imagine a big company, 6,000 employees, right? And imagine for a moment, just sitting there, taking a helicopter view and looking down at the whole company and realizing that the entire organization's progress rests on the premise that each individual is making the right decision in the right moment based on the right priority. Does that sound okay? And I think part of the challenge is we've underestimated the challenge. We need to, I love the sea. Up to about here, right? I love the sea, but I can only love the sea and enjoy the sea if I have respect for the sea. It doesn't make the sea bad. It means that in order for me to enjoy the ocean, to maximize my enjoyment out of it, my time with it, means I need to understand and really have a sober view of just how big and mighty this is. It's not to intimidate, but rather to empower us. We don't manage our frustrations and modulate our emotions. Has anybody but me found that when you're under extreme stress, you're not the best version of yourself as a wife, as a sister, as a mother? Sure, man. I'm so glad that God blessed me with such a patient husband. Because my husband is a de-escalator. So if something's like a 7 on the scale, he brings it to a 4, which is a great quality. And of course, you heard that I'll share a bit about that as well. But in terms of an abusive relationship, he has a great quality in a partner. Don't, find somebody who's not going to escalate your anxiety, would be my tip there. And then also become the person that doesn't escalate other people's anxieties unnecessarily. We can't use our working memory. And I want to say, so I'm in medical menopause. There's probably only a handful of people in the room that know what that entails. I didn't go perimenopause. There was no perimenopause. There was this, and then there was just, nothing. But it's very topical to talk about menopause and perimenopause today, and that's great. I'm glad it's out on the table. But what concerns me is that we're writing things off to hormones that is not about hormones. It's about the fact that we're sitting in a situation that is an impossible situation. So we're blaming our working memory, we're blaming omega-3, we're blaming lack of sleep, we're blaming menopause, we're blaming anything except the fact that we're trying to basically eat an elephant in one bite, chew it and digest it properly before the next elephant is coming. And what I would like you to think about is the consequence of this on the rest of your business. So the one program we do outside of sales, we do it with sales as well, but we've done this very broadly at Alexander Forbes, at ABSA as well, is around productivity. And for me, it is such meaningful work because if you can't function in this world, you're going to be mentally, emotionally, and physically impacted. And in my view, a wellness day is not going to help until we can get a grip on this. And I also believe that it is up to us as leaders. And I say this I have a small team, right? I don't have a big team. But our resources are very precious. But I know I can't burn them out. Nobody in here would hopefully nobody here would take your vehicle and ride it at 4,500 revs. And then when it starts like, and you're running out of fuel, just push it harder. Push it harder. Would we do that? And yet, that's what we do every day. And I, by the way, have not mastered this. My coach says to me, Shelley, you want to end the day with 70% unspent energy. I'm like, what is that? I've spent next week's energy already. I'm burning fumes here. So it impacts you, your leadership, but I also want you to think about who you're leading. Because the laws we have today and the practices we have today, and by the way, HR is way above my pay grade. I'm not advising, I'm just saying they were created for an industrial age. When we worked 8-hour shifts and you went home at 5 o'clock. I remember those days. Right? There was no such thing as dialing into a meeting from your vehicle. All right. So would you agree then that those consequences are significant? I will tell you that sometimes we work with organizations that will commission work and pay for it and never use it. But we'll still take the money, right? I will. No, but it's like you think about the decision making, the money, the revenue that's falling through the cracks because of the lack of alignment, the overcommitment, the decisions that aren't being executed on. So my core message today is maybe it's not the business that's fragile, maybe we are. You see, when we, so our business will be 10 years old this year. Thank you. Thank you. They say it's the first 3 years, right? You get through the first 3 years, and then it's like something, I don't know, 68% of businesses close in the first 3 years, and then there's a big chunk until you get to the 10-year. Incidentally, does anybody know why, once you've gotten past the 3-year mark, what's the number one reason businesses fail between 3 years and 10 years? Does anybody know? Cash flow. So if you've got a product market fit, you've got the right product in the right market, everything's set in place, but you run out of cash, it's essentially like being a diver who runs out of air. Okay, there's an ocean there, but you can't swim in it because you've essentially lost your oxygen. And that is what cash flow is in a business, in an organization. Now, what have I done with my clicker? Jeez, here it is. Sorry, folks. So if we are fragile and we're not willing to admit it, because I was saying the business is 10 years old, for 10 years I've been doing nights, early mornings, sometimes weekends, missing family occasions or social engagements, giving up my hobbies, because there's going to come a day when, right? So this is me, I'm fertilizing the ground. But at what point in our careers do we go, okay, no, whoa. We said it was for a season and for a time. Okay, so winter does not last for 12 months. So my husband and I, we came back from taking a break. We did 4,469 kilometers. We've got a beautiful country. I love getting on the road, away from screens and everything, Anyway, he turned 50 last year, and I said to him, his name's Chris. I said, Chris, I didn't call him Chris. I said, babe, where do we want to be in 10 years? Because we both agree we don't want to retire in Johannesburg. We love Johannesburg. I'm deeply grateful for Johannesburg. And there's so much that the rest of South Africa, I believe, could learn from us, but hey. But I don't want to retire here. I want to go back to the coast. So I said to him, do you realize that in 10 summers, you'll be 60? Actually, it's 9, but I didn't want to tell him that. It's 10 summers, 10 financial year ends. 10 summers, 10 winters, 10 autumns, 10 springs. 10 annual conferences if you go to an annual conference. 10. That's it. That's it. Now, I found that quite exciting and exhilarating because I found somehow the ability to tap into a discretionary effort and an energy that potentially I needed to fan back into flame and reignite that. But I also can't continue to do things the way that I did for the last 10 years. But a lot of that's going to come down to how I think about it and the changes that I'm going to make in my own mind. Getting to that point of fatigue is not only one thing. It's not only the difficult clients or the legislation changes or managing the cash flow or the relationship that you're dealing with at home or the words, the narrative that you're carrying inside yourself, harming yourself from the inside. There are so many assaults that are coming at us every day. It is what I like to call death by 1,000 cuts. And as a leader, you're supposed to hold it all. And that's why I think it's incredible that we have forums like this. And as women, I believe it is incumbent on us now, particularly in this season, to reach out to each other, to offer hands of friendship, collaboration, community, to be there, to have that person you can phone when you walk out of a meeting and all you want to do is scream or cry, you don't know which. We need that, and we are responsible for building that. Somebody asked about resilience, so I just popped this in and you can go and read. This is Diane, I could not pronounce her surname, Contu. I don't know how to pronounce it. From Harvard Business School, and what she says is a resilience formula is the first thing you ought to do is face reality. So when I would say we, but obviously it affected me a bit more than Chris, but when the cancer diagnosis came, I did not want to accept reality. I was looking at this treatment, that treatment, went for a second opinion, and all of the stuff. And then Dr. Trudy Smith, who's the oncological gynecologist, called me. She called me in on a Saturday morning. She said to me, my sweetheart, you have got cancer. I cannot change that. There are 2 treatment options for you. You can go this route, you can go this route. Here are the papers. The outcomes are the same. The choice is yours. But what you are suggesting is not something that any good doctor would do, because that's for women that are of childbearing age. Nice to hear that, eh? But it's the truth. It's the truth. You know, I went through major grief when I went into menopause, and the truth is you get on with it. You grieve it, and you move on with it, right? Face reality. Then the second thing is the meaning you're going to give it. And we give it meaning. And I've battled with this. I've shared with you, and I don't actually know that I've ever shared this in an open room before, and would have to cut it out any recordings, but I've never shared the father thing. It's been hard to put meaning to it, to make sense of it. But here's what I do know. In rooms where I felt like I previously had to ask for permission to be there, I now know that for whatever reason, I had genetically been created for TV, radio, presenting. And so that's good, right? That's good. I have a sister who's a doctor and another one who's a microbiologist, and so that's good genetically. That's good for me, probably. I'm guessing, you know. And one thing I felt, and I mean, I'm not here to put words in our Creator's mouth, and forgive me. I don't mean to offend anybody if you don't believe, but for me, this was critical to navigate this. What I heard was, I cared for you too much for you not to know the truth. But you need to look to me. And that was the meaning for me. And then you start to improvise. So I love what the Americans, they've got this term called getting scrappy. You take a bit of this, you take a bit of that, you know. And we need that in business. We need to be innovative. We need to improvise where improvisation is required. Make the most of those resources that we have. I have not checked the time. Can somebody give me a time check? Okay. So this framework that I'm showing you was created by a gentleman called Dr. David Rock. And Dr. David Rock said, sorry, I don't know why the iceberg is, there is an iceberg there. So I'll work on that design. But what it's saying is that above the waterline, what you see is there's results. We want to get a result, right? You want to increase the turnover of the organization. You want to increase the profit margins. You want to work on your own independent financial situation. You want to increase your influence. Whatever. You want to lose weight, whatever. Fill in the blank, okay? We know that in order to get that result, there are certain behaviors that most of us know what to do. Not always, but a lot of the time. Right? So if you want to be married, if you want to be happily married, here's a start. Don't cheat. Would you agree? Now, not cheat. Being faithful does not guarantee you a happy marriage, but cheating pretty much does guarantee that you're going to be unhappy. Would you agree? And yet, every one of us knows somebody who made a decision to do the thing that they know they shouldn't do. Oh, and incidentally, I'm not unique here either. Sometimes I know I shouldn't have the red velvet cake or drink a glass of wine, Because I know that it's going to bugger up my sleep and it's going to affect my weight loss goals. But you know what? Sometimes I'm just weak. Right? So we know the thing to do, like financially. I know that I don't need another handbag. Anyway. So below the waterline, okay, there is a state. Below the waterline, there is a state. Your mental, emotional, and physical state. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to describe something, then I'll ask you to raise your hand if you can relate to this. Has anybody ever walked into an important high-stakes meeting when you were so tired, you felt sand behind your eyes and you feel like you're doing this inside your body? We've been there, right? That's a state. Now, when you feel like that, do you think it is going to impact how you show up? And do you think that's going to impact the result you get? Okay. But then what determines our state? Our thinking. Right? So what we think determines how we feel determines how we engage, and how we engage determines what we get. But most of us treat our thoughts as if they're truth. There was a young boy who was sitting in a class one day, and he chirps his teacher, and the teacher says to him, "You know what your problem is? You think you're always right." To which he replies, and he said, "Well, when's the last time you said anything you thought was wrong?" At any given point, there is a big portion of our thinking that's not serving us. And we need to become cognizant of that, and for that means you've got to become present. And how are you going to become present when you're drinking from a fire hydrant? So we focus on competency and behavior, and as leaders, what do we see? What time you got to work, what time you left, how you left your desk, whatever, what you're wearing. We can only see what's above the waterline. And we're wondering, why does this person not speak into a meeting? Why don't they contribute? Why don't they ask better questions? Why didn't they come and tell you that they didn't know what to do? Why? Why didn't they raise the flag and tell you they were going to drop the ball with this client? Why did they let this happen? Why? And we are addressing the behavior, but we don't see what is driving is below the line. It's the state. Because we think if we can just change their behavior, we will change the result. We don't recognize that for real change, we've got to change the way people think. And you have an expert in the room that you can work with around that. But here are 3 tips for you that come from Dr. David Rock's books. And if you know of another way, please do let me know, because we could probably go and buy an island. Who knows? Because changing our minds is the hardest thing. Yeah. Oh, and as leaders, you're trying to change other people's minds. And in sales, you're trying to change other people's minds. And it's tough to try and just change our own. So the first way we change it is through education. So what you're exposing yourself to, like today, or books you read, or courses you do, qualifications you get, travel into other countries, it's all in education. Sometimes a really good conversation can be a great education. And if we're very smart, we watch other people's mistakes, and even that can be an education. And then the next way is through quality questions. Asking quality questions. So when you are engaging with people on your team, are you asking them questions like, and here's a clue, this is not a quality question. What were you thinking? But a quality question might be, when you became aware of this, what did you feel first, and what did you think about? What were the possible solutions you could explore? And by the way, if you want to stop being the person your organization or your family makes all the decisions, you have to learn how to do this. Because people will come to you and ask you to make the decision, and then you're going to have to ask them quality questions, otherwise they will never learn the skill of actually making the decisions themselves. And the third one is consequences. So education, quality questions, and consequences. Here's the problem. If we blame the consequences on external parties, we lose the lesson. If we blame the consequences on external factors, we lose the lesson. Let me give you an example. So, having grown up without a father in the house, and a mother who also was not only not present, but she was hostile, would this come as a massive surprise to you if I told you that I grew up with father issues? Would it come as a massive surprise to you if I told you I got into a relationship with a very unhealthy man who was 11 years older than me? Huge shock, right? But I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. Somebody said to me once, you can't see into a circle until you step out of it. And that's why you need to be in fellowship with people you can trust who will tell you the truth because they care. So what happened was, because I wasn't aware of it, I dragged that into a relationship. Now, what I'm about to tell you is so important. And I'm asking you to take this message out to other women and men as well. Okay? We grossly underestimate how damaging a toxic relationship is. Because you don't put rands and cents to it. But I dated somebody who would pick a fight with me before any major event. Sometimes he'd fight with me until 4 o'clock in the morning. What do you think I was like the next day? I was depleted. I was exhausted. I was dealing with being attacked. In this case, this was emotional and verbal and not physical. That was, but when I was younger. Anyway, the point being, you're dealing with all of that and you don't calculate the missed promotions, the times you didn't speak up, the strategies you didn't execute against, the phone calls you didn't make, the lunch you didn't attend, that thing that you canceled at the last moment because you just couldn't bear it. The cost of your home situation and the impact on how you live your life out there in the world is incalculable. And life brings so many things for us to deal with. Death, disease, divorce, betrayal, all sorts of fraud, all of those things. We don't need to be fighting a battle inside the safety of our own home. So how do we develop real confidence? Confidence starts with clarity, crystal clear. And by the way, do you want the people in your business to be confident? Raise your hand. Who doesn't want them to be confident? Who just doesn't want to raise their hand? Talk about support, eh? So you've got to be crystal clear. Like if you talk about it in revenue, what's your target? How much pipeline coverage do you need? If your business needs 30 million rand this month, you need to have 90 million rand opportunities that can come off this month, not someday. You've got to be clear on where the money's going to come from. Who are the customers? How are you going to get them? Etc., etc. Crystal clear. You and everybody else on your team has to be clear. And as a board, you have to be clear. Because chaos has a wonderful way of trickling down. Isn't that the truth? Then you need conviction. You must believe in what you're doing as an organization. Because everybody focuses on competency, on training, on knowing what to do. But if you have 2 doctors, both qualified, both, I'm sorry, the medical themes are coming through here, right? They're both qualified. They're both very, they're passed academically, wonderfully, and they've got great clarity, but the one is like, nah, whatever, and the other one's answering their phone when somebody's calling. The other one has a conviction that we can actually treat this. The other one believes in the medicine that they're going to be using or the procedure that they're going to be. Who's going to have a greater chance of success? The one that, right? So now what you don't want is somebody that's so excited and deep conviction and not untrained. That's very bad. You do not want that. Okay, but conviction. So think about this. What is your level of conviction? And if your conviction is challenged, is it a temporary situation that you can take remedial action, or is your conviction that's been challenged a message to you to tell you this is not aligned with your values, you're not in the right place, you're not acting in integrity? Conviction is priceless. You cannot buy it, and when you lose it, you can't buy it back. So that gives you real confidence. Now, this concept was introduced to me by a mentor. He said to me, Shelley, you're a dial, not a switch. I was like, what do you mean I'm a dial, not a switch? What does that mean? He said, you're not either good or bad, lazy, productive, successful or failing, happy or sad. Success and leadership and running an organization and living a good life is incremental improvements. It's about calibration, not, yes, only so many times you can pivot before your neck gets sore. Right? We want to calibrate and constantly be recalibrating, not just the business, but ourselves. So every day, there are things that I can do that are going to take me towards greater clarity, greater conviction, in building on my competence, better relationships, more clarity. And then there are things that I can do that are going to take me in the opposite direction. And sometimes we're doing this all on the same day, right? But as long as you have breath, you can become aware of that and you can take a decision to take different action and to change your direction. The next thing you need is margin. Margin being the gap you have between your load and your limits. So everybody has this on the table for you to take home. The gap you have between your load and your limits. You need margin financially. Everybody understands that, right? You can't have just enough money. Sorry, if you don't mind, just read it when at the end of it. I'm just letting you know it's there. But you need margin in your finances, but you also need margin in time. You can't think strategically, you can't think creatively, your problem solving is not going to be there. You can't build relationships and sit down and have a cup of tea with somebody if you don't have time. And you need margin relationally. If you don't, you're going to be walking on eggshells. And when we walk on eggshells, we find ourselves shrinking in rooms where we should be rising. So I'm going to share these with you afterwards, and I want you to really, and there's also a download for you, there's a reflection guide that we've put together for you. So ask yourself, where am I shrinking back? The decisions that we are avoiding are our bottleneck. I know that I'm against time. I'm going to move through this as quickly as possible because I really want you to, I think this is going to be deeply valuable to you. So there's this quote that says that most professional problems are really just unresolved personal issues showing up at work. You don't have boundaries at home, it's going to show up at work. You're too quick to argue, it's going to show up at work. Lack of attention to detail, it's going to show up at work. Too much detail, analysis, paralysis, it's going to show up at work. Whatever your things are, right? Wanting to escape, it's going to show up at work. So we are whole human beings. Wherever we go, we take ourselves. Now, there's a book called Necessary Endings by Dr. Henry Cloud. It is one of the best books I have ever read, ever. And in fact, it was one of the books that really unlocked me from leaving that relationship permanently. And what he says is he uses the analogy of pruning a vine. And by the way, this is a business book. It's written, he is coaching CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Like, that's the level this is at. This is not a book about relationships. This is a book about business. But what he says is in business, when you're pruning the vine, the first place you prune is dead wood. Yeah? That's not that hard. Okay, but then the second one you have to prune is sick and not getting better. What is that product you keep putting into and putting into and putting into, and we work on the marketing, we'll redo the website, we'll try again. Who's that person that you've believed and you've coached and you've trained and you've cajoled and you've encouraged and who's that person where we're throwing good energy after bad? So these are big questions to grapple with. That's why I want to give them back to you, right? And then the third one, and this is really hard for me, because as an entrepreneur, I have like a plethora of ideas, and they're all one. Like, I mean, I can say I'm in good company here, right? Lots of ideas and innovation and creativity. But at some point, I've got to make a decision about what's good but not best. So it's not even sick. It's not deadwood and it's not sick. It is actually good, but you know what? It's not the best thing. That's difficult. Right. So what I wanted to say then, just in terms of walking away, you don't need to villainize people to walk away. They don't have to be bad. You don't have to turn them into an enemy. And you can make a decision to walk away for their benefit and for yours. Right. This just says that when you're running a hard business, you need a soft place to land. Don't be fighting battles in your own home and trying to fight them out there. A soft place to land means that you have a loving partner, a peace in the home, a comfortable bed, a good meal, a bath or a shower, whatever you like. It's such an important lesson. And I know it's difficult for those of you who've got teenagers that are coming into the adult years. There's a season there where it might feel like you lose that peace that you have. Sorry, we're just about there. So what I just wanted to say here is around constraints, but you can read this later. Constraints feel constraining. But actually, constraints can become very productive. In sales, we work in 12-week cycles. In finances, you work in 12-week cycles. So there's this term called periodization where you literally are working in 12 weeks. When you are working in 12 weeks, you don't have the other weeks. You only have these weeks. Now, all of a sudden, you can't have a bad week. Even 2 bad days is a significant portion of your time. So the constraint of time actually makes us more effective, not less effective. So you can look forward to focused creativity when you're dealing with constraints. Strategic clarity, your limitations will sharpen your focus on what really matters. And operational efficiency, scarcity will mandate a clean, high-impact approach to every leadership decision you make. So, and I think this has been a theme that's come through today. And if we had time, and every one of you has a story. And it's still being written. And we don't know what the next chapter holds. But it is not the trial that defines us. It is the response to the trial. Many things have happened not because they were deserved, but what is our narrative? I'm not going to be a victim. Right? Yes, it's unfair, it is unfortunate, it hurts, and I will work through that over time, but I'm not going to give up my agency in favor of some old story that I didn't even start to write at a Buffalo rally. Right. Okay, folks, there are tools for you to download. So what we've done is there's a reflection journal for you with some deep questions for you to ask yourself and to work through. Please feel free to distribute those with your team as well. It's been a pleasure and a privilege, and I know that you've all been very patient in terms of time, and I hope that you feel that it was worth the time that you were here today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Wow, Shelley, you can bottle that energy and sell it to us, the customers. Thank you for making up the time, but I do think if there are questions in the room and online, we have an opportunity to take maybe 2 from the room, 2 online. Happy? If you do need to log off online, we do understand. We are at the 12:30 mark, but for those who still want to participate, we'll go on just for the questions. Are there any questions in the room other than bottling Shelley's energy? Yes, there's a question over there. Shelley,
I was going to ask this question in our previous talk as well, because the question of nutrition and health came up. I am an exercise and sports scientist, and I work in the space of gut health. And I'm wondering how you help people trust their intuition, trust their gut, particularly when they're feeling fragile. What I see from a health perspective is that a detox is necessary, but learning to understand what you're pruning and what you're getting rid of is challenging for many women, because the empath on the inside of us sees good in so many things, sees magic instead of tragic. So when you're coaching women businesses, particularly women in business, how are you helping them hone that skill of trusting their gut? Obviously, there's physically, but there's the physical as well.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to answer you in 2 ways. The first one I want to answer is, there's a second part to your question, which I can't fully articulate now. There was the one about trusting your gut, and the other part. But what it made me think of is, there's a story in the Bible where Moses is leading the Israelites into the Promised Land. And my mentor said to me, he said, Shelley, there's a point where Moses gets to the river, and he sends the 12 spies across the way. And 10 came back with a negative report. And if you read the text, it says, and we look like grasshoppers in their eyes. They didn't have a conversation. They weren't like, hey, listen, guys, come across here. You don't have a chance, man. It's not rugby. It's not Springboks against the All Blacks, okay? They had that self-perception of themselves. And then 2 other people, and then Joshua and Caleb came back with a good report. Now, obviously, I'm not commenting on Moses, but the metaphor that my mentor shared with me, he said it was a tremendous leadership mistake. Because he listened to the 10, he cost tens of thousands of people their future. So that was the main thing. He said about the difficult decisions. When I have to make a difficult decision in my business, it becomes much easier for me because there are other people that are trusting me to make the right decision. And if I allow somebody to manipulate me or influence me, and is to the detriment of the whole, then I'm not doing my job as a leader. So I'm hoping that's been helpful. In terms of trusting your gut, if you're talking about practically, when I came through chemoradiation, my gut flora is gone. And then I had no idea what I was in for with menopause. I felt like I was hit by a real via bus, for real. I did not have time to get rested. There was no retreat or anything like that. So I needed to work and repair on the go. And what became vital to me in that season was to surround myself with people who understood and that I could go to would help compensate where I couldn't. In terms of intuition, here's what I say. I can only say what works for me. So to answer you, do I teach people that? No, I don't. That's, I would say, yeah, that's not my space, but here's what I do. Or here's what I know. In order for me to hear, I've got to become still. So health absolutely matters. Sleep absolutely matters, 100%. But I'm not going to hear until I can become still. And that's the only way I'm going to know the difference between an emotion and direction. And you know what? I find it hard to become still. Sorry, ma'am.
Any questions online, Tali? No. Last call for the room. Any questions?
I'm curious, that last comment, why do you find it hard to become still? And why can that not be developed over time? So at this stage.
Yeah, it can be developed. Now, the fact that I'm aware of it, remember, I'm a dial, not a switch. So my calibration in that area has gone so, what's the word, uncalibrated. I'm not a scientist, help me here. Decalibrated, uncalibrated, the opposite of calibrated, okay? So I'm aware of it. And so my opportunity now over this weekend is to take that time. But to answer you, why is it so hard for me? I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'll start thinking about this customer and that email and this staff member and that, this, and then I'm on the way to work. I'm thinking about a proposal. I'm thinking about cash flow. I'm thinking about the VAT. I'm thinking about the board meeting. I'm thinking about the investors. And I get home and then there's more work to do. And often I'm just so tired. And there's a book I'm busy reading at the moment called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. So, until I'm willing to confront the anxiety that I'm allowing to drive my life, because I'm buying into a narrative that I'm not confronting, I'm going to challenge. It's going to be hard to find stillness, but I'm aware of it. So now I'm going to create. So tomorrow we're going out into the mountains, and yeah. Does that answer the question? Oh, yeah. No. I mean, I don't know if I can answer the question.
Okay, I'm not the doctor, just for the record. I've read a lot of books. I've been to sessions, very insightful, similar to yours, and there's hundreds of ideas of what to do, what to change, and I forget a lot of them. If there was one thing you could recommend, of all the ideas that I could take home and just work on consistently over time, that would make my life better than it currently is, what would that be?
Yay. That idea would be, who are you surrounding yourself with? If I could give one piece of advice, it would be ask yourself, are the people you're spending time with a reflection of your past or a reflection of your future? Because even if I can't find stillness, if I'm with the right people, I'll find stillness. And even if I lack clarity, if I'm with the right people, they will help to recalibrate me. There is the power of community and the power of other.
It's not a question, it's more a comment for the lady who says, how do you find stillness? Our brain, as much as it's made up of a lot of mush, but it is a muscle that we train. So I still take you back to neuroplasticity. All of us have been blessed with the power of neuroplasticity. And join us at Think and Grow Rich Africa when we do the Back to the Future retreat, because that is where we are going to show you the difference between your brain as it functions through stress response and your brain when it achieves stillness. So the art of meditation is an important thing. Sometimes we say, I am meditating, but we are actually running our brains. You are using that moment of your eyes closed in silence to just run your brain some more. The difference is that your eyes are closed and you are in a quiet room, but you are still busy going over your day and saying, oh, I should have said this to that one, I should have. And true stillness is where your brain thinks nothing. And we teach you to empty your brain so that it is empty in the correct space that is safe, so that it is full out there, and then you function at your highest. We haven't, all of us here combined, haven't explored the maximum capacities of our brains yet.
Thank you, everyone. I'll just do a 1-minute wrap-up because we have gone over time. There is lunch afterwards for people in the room. But I think it's fitting to reflect on what we've just received this morning, which to the gentleman, you know, I take copious notes. I don't remember everything, but I have to say that there's so much for today. I agree with you. Maybe Claude can consolidate it into a single thought to take back, but the notes do help. So I firstly want to recognize our, I don't know, wise, intelligent, empathetic leader in these matters, Delia Ndlovu, who, as someone from the floor indicated, you gave us a masterclass in facilitation, in empathetic querying, just how to navigate the story, and so that both our guest speaker and the audience can derive so much value from the discussion. So thank you to you. Woo, Lerato. You stood up. I need to sit down after everything that you shared with us. I'm just going to summarize it into what you did say was go back to yourself before going forward. What I really loved was don't let someone rewrite your story, and it's similar to what Shelley shared with us. Don't let them write your story instead of returning to yourself. The one who laughs out loud, the one with the big eyes, the one whatever. We had our psychology safe space discussion at the last session, and one of the women at the table said that, you know, people said to her, she doesn't smile. You know, be authentically you. Go to that. Shelley, well, that was so rapid fire that I don't know if I got all the notes. The one useful thing I got for those who are still on their quest is make sure you choose a partner who is a de-escalator. And if we blame the consequences on external factors, we lose the lesson, because I think that is sometimes where we do dwell, and that was discussed today. She gave us lots of useful words. We also learned lots of big words from Dr. Tracy, the pineal gland, neuroplasticity. There are a few more, metacognition. I'm going to, again, be Googling all of those, but those are all such valuable little nuggets that when we leave here today, I think you can agree with me. We are all far richer than when we stepped out of our vehicles this morning. So a huge vote of gratitude and thanks to everybody who made this possible, to all of you, because this is also what makes it, the energy that is in the room and online, and to all the support team. Thank you very much. Lunch is served.